Extra time, 7:46 KNEB and 55 degrees this morning with sunshine. Our news extra brought to you by Jolliffe Funeral Home. Here's Kevin.
Thank you, Dennis. Good morning, everyone. Our guest today is Riverside Discovery Center Executive Director Ann James, and we were going to talk about science camps, but we're not having science camps now, right?
Well, as of noon yesterday, we went into Plan B, which now became our priority plan. And the new motto for Riverside Discovery Center is wanted. Anyone with the plans how to build an ark.
Yeah, just amazing. You've had a pretty incredible year as executive director with all the things you've had to do. All right, so let's get started. Obviously, you're in emergency mode right now. And what does that entail?
As of yesterday at 1 o'clock, we had a staff meeting, and we went, excuse me, from AZA accreditation inspection final preparedness to flood evacuation stage. The zoo has always had a flood plan. The buildings were designed and built in the 1980s to withstand a 100-year flood, with all the buildings being built up. This is considered a 50-year flood, and we are slated to flood. So the dens for the dangerous animals like the large cats and the chimpanzees are elevated within the buildings, which are also elevated. So those animals obviously have to stay. We cannot house them somewhere else in the community. I mean, no one wants a lion in their neighborhood. The low-lying animals like the marmot and the skunk and some of those animals that are very low-lying will be collected up starting today, and we will put them in the quarantine building where we have multiple dens for holding, and that is in an elevated position, so they will be safe through a flood. Our major issue is going to be we could potentially have no water or sewage for the zoo for 6 weeks. And so starting today, we are asking the public for any extremely large closed containers that can hold water, because we're going to have to start stockpiling water today. Obviously the animals can't go anywhere. The staff will have to be on site to care for them, and without water and sewage it makes it extremely difficult. The food will all be elevated and put into a frozen trailer that NTC Transport is going to donate for us, which we're very grateful for. And we'll get all the food items up to the main office in that storage facility. But all of our equipment has to be moved, all the food supplies, and all the low-lying animals. So it's going to be a huge task.
Wow. Okay. When do you lose your water? It's early next week sometime?
Tuesday, yeah. So we have to stockpile all the water we can by Tuesday morning. We do have large animal feed tanks, but we really are in need of enclosed water containers which can stand for several weeks and be refilled once we reuse them, because this is going to be a big ordeal.
All right. Obviously, the zoo will be closed. When would that occur?
Well, we'll have a staff meeting as soon as I get off the air here, and we will decide when we will close the zoo. Obviously, it will be closed Tuesday, but it could be closed prior to that. This is going to be a huge economic loss for the Riverside Discovery Center, because the summer is obviously our busy season, and we could potentially lose the major part of the summer with income. So we will be asking the public to step up with memberships, monetary donations. Obviously, we may need large equipment to move mud and dirt after the event is over. We need water containers. We are going to need a lot of help from the public.
All right. We were talking outside that Baker and Associates, is that right, has done some work to kind of assess where your levels are and how much water might actually be in the zoo, right?
Right. Baker and Associates and Studio 21 are one of our major supporters, both in labor and financial support and operations, the whole thing. And we called them, and they immediately were on site with some kind of electronic thing to measure elevations for everything within the zoo, so we can determine what the levels are in relation to the current water level of the river, as well as where, you know, a 3 to 4 foot increase in water will hit. Because every animal, every piece of equipment, every bit of food that is below that level has to be moved.
All right. Like, what about animals like the moose and so forth? I mean, the moose is probably already in.
Well,
about,
the moose actually left a couple of years, about a year ago.
Oh,
We
okay.
sent him back
All
to
right.
Minnesota because
Okay.
the climate did not do well with moose. We fluctuate, 40 to 50 degrees temperature just in one day, and they did not do well with that. So we sent him out, but he would love what we have today because the moose yard is already half full of water. Right now it just has domestic turkeys in there, and they can fly out of the exhibit, they can fly up into the trees, they can go into the barn, which is elevated, so they're fine. But it would be an ideal moose exhibit today.
Okay. All right. So, are there any other animals like that aren't like dangerous animals and aren't smaller animals that you have an issue with where you're going to put them?
The bobcats are right at the pond level, which the current level today sits below the level of the river. So that obviously is going to flood. So we do have an open den in the big cat den building. We can move those cats into, and then we'll have all the big cats in one facility that they all have elevated dens. They'll be way above, even a 5-foot flood. The biggest problem we're going to have is catching up the swift fox down in their dens, because they are very shy animals. They don't like to come out very much, and it takes several days to catch them up because they do need to be moved to a safer security, because their underground dens will probably flood. We're looking at not only surface runoff from the river, because our pond is connected to the river eventually, but also groundwater elevation is going to be a huge problem with this event. The water has saturated the ground so hard, now that the water has nowhere to go, and it just keeps rising. I think the last time the city measured the groundwater in Riverside Park, it was 2 feet below the surface of the ground. So that obviously will change.
All right. So AZA accreditation is likely on hold. What about getting a new executive director? Is that on hold too now?
I just read an email from him just before I left home this morning. He is still coming. He will be here Sunday night. So, rain, sleet, hail, flood, or whatever, zoo directors show up. So he's going to be here. I did notify AZA that we are in a flood warning, because they are supposed to arrive Thursday night, and I have not yet heard back from them if they will postpone our accreditation, because obviously they will not be able to inspect the animals in their exhibits, and by then they may be underwater.
All right. So just it's been anything else we need to mention?
We probably could use lots of volunteers. So we may end up, I have to check with MPPD this morning, we may lose power as a result of this. We may have to, close the office entirely. We'll set up operations at Wildlife World. Hopefully they'll be high and dry. So we, everything's kind of in flux right now. It will depend on how high the water gets and when it gets and what does happen to our power. But the main issue we're facing today is getting enough water stockpiled, because for 180 animals, water for 6 weeks is a lot of water.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, good luck.
When they need it. Thank you.
Ann James, Executive Director of the Riverside Discovery Center. Back to you, Jim.
Comforting personal.
All right.
Thank you much.
All right. You